Hi everybody, hi, welcome to this beautiful, beautiful day. It's Monday, I was going to say the date, 17th, of course, of October 2022. And just wanting to first of all extend a beautiful, big, warm welcome to the Earth Angels gathered here from around the country. And to those of you who are watching the replay, welcome, hi, thank you for your time, your attention and your energy. It's very, very special that we get to have these wonderful conversations. And today I'm just so delighted and excited and really, really looking forward to hearing from our beautiful guest speaker, Christina Richter. Christina's coming in from Napier. And she's going to share with us some of her story, but just very briefly, she's all about the 3 A's, the A's of astrology, Ayurveda, and authorship. And Christina has a beautiful offering, very wise, gorgeous woman, beautiful energy. And I felt so cool when I had worked with her recently to invite her on to share her wisdom with our collective. I came to Christina through Michelle Courage, who's here on the call. So thanks, Michelle. Always wonderful work within the EarthAngel Collective, just, recommending each other's work and saying, hey, I learned this from this person, and then your ears prick up. And mine did, because Michelle shared about some astrocartography, which was an interesting area of science where you look at your astrology and a location and whether it's favorable or not favorable. And I need to do some more astrocartology work with Christina myself. But when I had that session, because we were looking to move and I wanted to understand what would be the best alignment for me and my husband, and Christina was very insightful and very helpful and produced some whiz-bang maps. But also when I talked with you, you were very great about just pinpointing a few other things that were going on for me in my life quite intuitively, and I was really impressed by that. So I've got a few questions that we'll dive into shortly, and then hopefully we'll have some time just for general Q&A. And Christina's got a few wonderful offers that she's going to share with us at the end of the call.
Okay, so I'm just going to go with the flow here.
Okay,
I know
great.
that there may be a time limit, but I'll just go until it's done.
That's great. Well, we're going to start we'll start in a moment. What we might just do first is just to close our eyes and take a few deep breaths, just to come into the ceremonial aspect of this now moment, of this beautiful day, this beautiful opportunity, which very much exists outside of the realm of the normal hustle and bustle of our everyday lives. But it's a moment for us to choose actively and to create together this portal of space where we open up to our soul's infinite knowledge and wisdom, where we really sit in contemplation with fresh ears, learning something new, something very ancient, something very futuristic. But my intention with this call and with our collective sharing of knowledge today is to really drop into our awareness something that's going to make a difference for us in our lives, so that we can really come into more aligned vibrational resonance with our soul's mission, with our work here as light workers on Earth, and just really into more peace, harmony, flow, and joy in everyday life, which of course is the blessing of this human experience. So I just wanted to extend thank you to Christina. Thank you to each of you and your higher selves, your soul selves, for taking this time and just really dropping in today. Beautiful. So I'm just going to let you start sharing. I'd really like to know, for a start, astrology and Ayurveda and authorship is a wonderful combination, and you obviously have had a lot of experience in a life journey, but what was the thing that sort of got you started into astrology? How did that become your thing? And just briefly give us a little bit of your story. We'd love to hear.
So you're looking at 62 years of experience. Let me see if I can really bring that down to a nutshell. When I was a child, my stepmother, we used to read the local papers, and that was probably the very first time I kind of saw, astrology. Didn't really know what it was. All I know is that she was a Gemini and she read her stars every day. And then it was kind of off my radar for quite a while. Then I got into nursing, and that took up all my time and all my passion. And it's funnily enough, it was while I was on night duty, when I was feeling a little bit bored. I was looking after geriatric people, and basically they were in hospital for turns and medications and walking to the toilet, and really not much else. They were just there more or less for respite, the kind of area that I was in. So the nights were long. And of course, you weren't allowed to sleep on night duty. It was just a no-no. So I needed to do something to make sure that I was awake, even though I slept through the day. Our brain's natural rhythm is to sleep at night. It's what we are programmed to do. So when you go against your program, you are going to get problems with your body. So I picked up I had taught myself sort of level 1 astrology through magazines. When the Zodiac magazine came out, I was there every week. I was down to the corner shop getting my Zodiac magazine and just reading and really teaching myself and really, really getting inspired. But it was around about that time. I was in my 30s at that time. I was at late 20s. And though it was the days before personal PCs, personal computers. So I wrote away to this place, Correspondence College, and asked if I could do an astrology course. And they said yes. So I was doing astrology through correspondence. And in those days, there was nothing on computer. You had to do it all by hand. You had to write it all out. And I did really, really well in the course, so well that the teacher offered me a position in his college in Melbourne to go into further studies. But it was not on my agenda for me to move at that time. I was restricted by many factors, so I couldn't move. So I went off and did that. And then, started getting into astrology. And then I went to India. It was 36. I had my birthday in the desert. So it would have been 1997. Maybe. Anyway, went to India. And while I was there, my mind wasn't on astrology at all. That's where I came across Ayurveda. A friend of mine was going through the Ayurvedic program and wanted a support person, and he was a heroin addict. And he asked me to be his support person. Well, he came off heroin in a week. And that process, like I was with him through the whole process, and it was just amazing. It was a head turner. I had already done introductory to Ayurveda in Sydney before I had gone to India. And so I kind of knew a little bit about the process. But when I came back, I was ready to go full-fledged into my 4-year study program of Ayurveda, and they cancelled it. Oh. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I was all geared up and ready to go. And then they cancelled it. And then I went, oh, hang on here. By this time of my life, I was beginning to be a lot more reflective and a lot more in tune to what was going on around me, instead of just taking things as they are. Because something is for you, it will not pass you. So I kind of thought, well, there must be a reason why I'm not doing it at this time. So I approached a teacher at the college, and she was doing level 2 astrology privately from home. And I asked her if I could join her group, even though I wasn't one of her students. I did say that I had done level 1. And she said, yeah, fine, come along. Well, that's when it really, really honed in. I did 4 levels of astrology in 1 year.
Wow.
I could not get enough. Then I went in, then I moved into various other mentors, Alan Oaken, Maggie Kerr. I did psychological astrology, financial, went down the road in the path of doing medical astrology, which is what I specialize in now, because I can back that up with Ayurveda and Western medicine. And the following year later, that course that was cancelled actually came back. So then I went on my Ayurvedic journey. And it's funny, Ayurveda also has a astrology section in the makeup of its modality. So I also studied Jyotish, or Indian astrology, as well. And they are 2 very different cats, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There are similarities, but there are some distinct changes. But anyway, distinct differences, I should say. So then I just, and it just hasn't stopped. But the real, and then I was doing a lot of sessions, from just personal sessions, one-on-one. I was doing a few at the fairs when I was living overseas.
Yeah.
And when I came back to New Zealand, I was still nursing. And I promised myself at the age of 50, I was going to give nursing away. And of course, you never do, because the regular income is what keeps you fixed into a position that you may or may not like, even though, because you've got mortgage to pay and everything else.
Yeah.
And it took a friend of mine who went to hospital. And she said to me, after she had gone to hospital and come out, she said to me, I don't understand how a person like you can be working in a toxic environment like this. And I just thought, because when you do something long enough, and I did intensive care nursing for 25 years, it's just like, it just becomes a mainstay, like getting up in the morning, putting your shoes on and off you go. You don't really think too deeply about what's going on. It can take another person's perspective. And I know that on a spiritual front, universe had been trying to get me out of nursing for at least a few years, been trying to move me on. But as humans, like everything else, the fear steps in. You go, I've got no platform, nobody knows who I am, nobody knows what I do. How am I going to manage my life, pay my bills, look after my family and my cats? And, because that's what the money that I get from nursing provided, and it was regular income and I could rely on it, But I did finally leave nursing, and it was at my second Saturn return, which we will talk about later, or maybe I can just talk about it now, because I know that was one of your questions, Alice. Saturn in the chart is where you hold your responsibility. It's the Lord of karma. Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius, and the Saturn cycle is between 29 and 31 years. So at your first Saturn return, and that is when the Saturn in the sky comes back and hits the Saturn that you were born with. Mm-hmm. That's what we call a Saturn return. That's a return when a planet comes back to itself. So at that first Saturn return, it is a time where you usually take on a lot more responsibility. For a lot of people, it's either having children for the first time or second time, depending on how early they got married. It could be about buying a house. It could be having a promotion at work. It's about you taking on that extra responsibility. For me, my Saturn return was probably, what did I do? I left nursing at 27, so it was 27, so it was close to it. My Saturn sits in the sign of Capricorn. So it was probably, for me, it was about me taking more responsibility around, I think that was when I moved into, I was living in a boarding house for most of my nursing training, and then I moved. So that was a time when I moved out of that place into my own space, my Saturn being in the 4th house. But also it was about me taking more responsibility with my work, like that kind of thing. So your second Saturn return, which is roughly 29 to 31 years later, so that's roughly the ages between 56 and 58. That can be about, and that is about you being an authority and owning yourself, if you know what I mean. So it's like, so that was kind of around about the time that I broke away from nursing. I actually had some time out initially because my father was unwell. And then after the 6 months, I decided, well, actually, I don't really want to go back. So I didn't. So in that time, I finished my first book, and I started to set up foundations and platforms, and slowly, I've sort of, been doing my thing. And so what I am noticing with a lot of, in particularly women, and of late, a few men that have been coming to me round about that age, you're kind of in a phase of, what do I do? Am I really following my soul's purpose? Am I really doing what I'm here to do? When you're in your first stage of your Saturn return, 29 to 31, it's like you're still learning. And in astrology, they say you don't become an adult until you've had your first Saturn return, because Saturn will give you the tests. It will give you the challenges, and it's up to you to see whether you've got the discipline to actually follow through, to take the responsibility for your actions and those kinds of things. Badly placed Saturns can give you, like I've seen some people have major health illnesses at a Saturn return.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And the same thing can happen also when you're 56, 57, 58. And of course, we're older at that time too. So it's more prevalent. But what I am finding with the collective is a lot of women, they have literally started new lives at that age.
Yeah.
You know, like it's amazing. It doesn't matter whether
as you're saying that. I was just thinking about my Saturn return, just to interrupt you for a second. I got very much pushed hard by the universe to go to the UK when I was 29. And so I sort of spent the years of 29, 30, 31. I came home and I separated from somebody who I thought I was going to marry. Like, there was literally a trajectory in life that got completely, Steph's putting up her hand too, completely altered in those sort of 3 years. It was the biggest challenges of my life. And I'm actually I know you're going to talk about Chiron return in a minute as well, but I am excited about this, the late 50s to early 60s, and seeing this whole new life that arises at that time. I'm excited for it, because
it's a whole
now it feels quite hard.
And of course, the second Saturn return is about being an expert or being seen as an authority, whereas the first Saturn return is about working hard to sort of get there, to sort of face those challenges. Nice. But the second Saturn return is more like you get the rewards of the benefits and the discipline and the hard work that you started round about your first Saturn return, and for most people carried it right through till their second Saturn return. And keep in mind, there are midpoints of changes in between, and one of them is Chiron, which I will talk about today, as you know. So I'm feeling that at your second Saturn return, you are more in your own power. It's like, you know who you are, you know. I always say that, you know, when you're in your 50s, you get to the point where you just don't want to be taking any more BS. And by the time you're in your 60s, well, someone's not aligned with you, it doesn't bother you. You can just keep on going, because, you know, you're not there to do, let's please somebody, or am I going to hurt this person, or whatever. It's like, you know, and every time you do something like that, that is against your own personal values, and you're the one that suffers spiritually, which usually ends up as some kind of medical condition that you create in your own body. So second Saturn return is a real powerful time. And I'm just being really inspired by all these people that are literally going out. And for some people, it's literally starting again for the first time. So I kind of draw them in, and I kind of say, well, what's the thing that you love to do? What are your skills? Bring it all together as a package. So with me, my skills were medical, Eastern and Western philosophies in medicine, color therapy, stress management, esoteric healing, anything to do with chakras, Ayurveda, astrology. So I've kind of brought it all together. So when I sit down with a client, before they actually come to see me, there is a form. And on that form, I say, why are you coming to see me at this time? Because I look at somebody's chart and I can talk for hours and hours and hours. So I'd like to pinpoint what it is they're here to know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's smart.
Yeah. So I do that.
What was your one question?
Yeah.
What?
Why are you coming now? So they walk away knowing that they have that answered, plus anything else I see that I either pick up scientifically through astrology or intuitively, because I tend to connect when I'm in session with people, and I often get stuff coming through. So they get all of that. So, if they're going through an eclipse time, then I'll say, you're going to experience a couple of eclipses. I mean, who knows whether they are going to be experiencing eclipses every year? Your astrologer will know.
Yeah.
So I always say to people, it's really good to have a check-in every 6 months or at least 12 months around your birthday. Get a solar return chart done, which is the chart from birthday to birthday, which gives you an energy for what's happening for you in the following 12 months. So you know where you can focus and you know where you can plan your energies. If the eclipses are going to be hitting you, the eclipses are significant. They are about things that do require great transformation. Yeah. And of course, when you're not aware that you're going through a process of transformation, the what you're feeling can be confusion, pain, trauma, being indecisive, or the weak, low vitality. A lot of these things can be part of it if you don't know that you're actually going through something.
Yeah. Can we just grab, oh, sorry, Christina, can we just grab Michelle's question?
Christina, I just want to let everybody know that I can't recommend that chart for the year with Christina enough. The dates that she works on, which are good to do things. I mean, it's just, yeah, it was just amazing. I love that chart. So yeah, just highly recommended.
Thanks, Michelle.
Michelle comes and sees me every once in a while for her for her update. She said, I'm here for my astrology fix. Yeah, what do you need to know?
Right.
You know, like, are you looking to promote your book? Are you looking to start up a business? Are you looking to do some workshops? Whatever it is, there are dates where you don't do things and there are dates where you do things.
Yeah, I mean, I launched my book on the dates that Christina recommended. Yeah, I mean, it's all, even the retreats and stuff like that, definitely bounce those dates off, and moving as well when we were moving, you know, so yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So again, at your second Saturn return, I feel it's an exciting time.
Yeah.
It's a time where if you've done all the work, and it doesn't matter about the trauma you have or coming from dysfunctional families, etc. Most healers come from that space somewhere along the line, because it's in order for them to learn their journey so they can turn around and be effective healers to other people and help them in their process. And by the time you get to 56, 57, 58, Chiron only moves a few degrees a year, you know, you're at that point of empowerment, and it's really a strong energy that you can give back to others. You know, I was talking to my niece just the other day. She's 17, God bless her, and she's so confused about everything that's going on in her life around her work and around her school. And I said to her, sweetheart, there is only one thing you have to do on this earth as spiritual beings in physical bodies. She goes, what's that, auntie? You work towards being the best possible person you can be before you choose to pass. I said, that's it. It sounds easy, but it's not. Everything else, the job, the career, the husband, the children, the car, the condo, I wish, you know, everything else is icing. It's just icing on the cake. Yeah. But that's the one thing, in my opinion, that we are all here to do. And she goes, oh, okay. And I said, if you aspire to be something, and if you don't get it this time round, then the skills you have used to help you aspire to get that, you will bring those into your next life. You know, because we're staying with Saturn. Saturn is also the Lord of karma.
Yeah.
So depending on where Saturn is in your chart and your connections with other people, there can be karmic connections with people.
Yep.
Some of those connections may be around lessons that need to be learnt, so they can be, what's the word I'm looking for? So they can be integrated and then put aside. Yep. And some of them can be around maybe you are imparting your wisdom and your support and your discipline to help others, depending. So when you do a synastry, which is like if I compare my chart with Alice's chart, we'll have connections. Yeah. So that's what you call the synastry.
Yeah. And can you just share a little bit more briefly about the Chiron return? So is that, what age is that, or what years?
Chiron return is not a planet, it's a planetoid. It's kind of because of the size, it's not big enough to be an asteroid and not big enough to be a planet. So it's kind of like a planetoid kind of thing.
Yeah.
Chiron was discovered in 1977, and Chiron's orbit is 49 to 51 years.
That's why you mentioned it for me. Yeah.
That's why I mentioned it for you. Yes. And the interesting thing about Chiron, I'm not going to go into the big mythology, but basically Chiron in Greek mythology was cast out by his parents because he was different.
Right.
And that is the word that is often associated with Chiron. Now, we all have Chiron in our charts somewhere. So we were different. So Chiron is looked upon as the maverick or the outsider. He was the immortal healer. He could not die, but he suffered every day, but he could not die. He became a teacher, and he was also taught, if my memory serves me, in Greek mythology, he was taught by Apollo, so one of the main gods, and he was taught everything from music to arts, medicine, healing, all these other things. And this is where he found his purpose, you know. And they often say that even though as souls we choose our family and we choose our tribe, our spiritual family is often outside of our chosen family, and we develop our own tribe along the way, which is why these groups on Facebook and everything are usually pretty amazing. So when you're having a Chiron return between the ages of 49 and 50, and it was interesting for me, I was 50 when I met my partner, who I've been now with for 12 years. So that was a Chiron relationship, and it turned out for both of us, our healing and our wounding have been healed through each other, if you know what I mean. Also, at that time, after living overseas for 35 years or more, I decided to come back to New Zealand. So I completely uprooted everything to come home. Now, a Chiron return is a major, major shift. Now, people, they can sort of relate that to midlife crisis, but the way I see Chiron return, and again, it depends on the sign and house it plays out in, but this is how I've seen it play out. Chiron can affect you psychologically, but it can also affect you medically. Now, I have seen people at their Chiron return come down with major illnesses, and these people have usually been people that are, funnily enough, healers of a description where they are always giving and giving and giving, and they are not doing the self-care, and they are not bringing into their lives what they need. And I remember when I was still living in Sydney, I came across this woman, and she was a woman who was always on the go. Signs don't really come into this, doesn't really matter. But this was a woman who was always on the go. She was setting up institutions to help people, or da-da-da, and she literally did not stop. And I said to her, you need to slow down, because you've got no balance in your life. It's all work. You have no love. You have no friendships. You have no fun. There's no relationships. You don't even have a pet to come home to and cuddle. I said, there is nothing to give you a sense of love and joy in your life. It's just your work. Oh, but this is so important, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you need to slow down, or you need to delegate and give to other people. But she took it. She was the type A, took on the control and the responsibility. And I said, and I did say to her, if you do not stop, life will make you stop.
Yeah.
Right. And as always, and this is not a criticism, but people do not generally take positive action until they are in the middle of it. Because by that time, it's like, well, I'm too sick and I can't do anything. So now I want to actually change my life. When you give somebody a pre-warning, it's just like, well, that's not going to happen to me, because it hasn't happened. Even though they pay good money to come and see you, they still go, oh, So this woman ended up with a motor neuron condition that confined her to her bed.
Wow.
She had looked after her father until he died, her mother until she died. And then her brother was really sick and she was looking after her brother as well as setting up this institute. So she was just literally adrenally depleted, completely exhausted, and basically came down with a type of chronic fatigue where her nervous system completely shut down.
Does that. The universe does that.
And I warned her. Because I could
every
see,
time.
even though I couldn't quite understand how this was going to play out, because you don't always know how it plays out with the planets, I knew the energy was all about something's going to happen here. Yeah. And then I've had different stories around Chiron return, where I had this gentleman, he worked in corporate his whole life, right? He was the top guy in his company. Came to me and he said, oh, I'm feeling like all I want to do is just give it all away and just go bush.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yep.
Didn't think anything of it. He had made the money where he could go and live independently in the bush with little connection to the outside world. He was saying, I've just been so overstimulated, I just need to completely cut down. And then you get other people that at the age of, at round about that age, they go from, they swap hats. Like you might go from corporate into becoming a holistic healer.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I say to people that are doing it like that, I say, take the skills you've learned from your corporate experience, your marketing, your your ability to negotiate, your advertising experience, communications, and you bring that into your new business. So it's not like, even though you might be going into something that you've not done or that you're not used to.
Yeah.
We all have our, not only our skills from past lives, which are highlighted in the chart, but also the skills you develop this life. And I always say that even though we start out with one job, over our journey, we go through many different jobs and we create the skills and they continue to accumulate. And then by the time we get to our second Saturn return, two things happen. We are either reaping the rewards from the previous 30 years. And for many people, that's around retirement age of 65. Yeah. Unless you're in Australia, then it's 66 and it's going up, I hear. Or you, depending on your energy level and whether you've been looking after your physical temple, you can actually start again. Now, Louise Hay, she started Hay House at the age of 60. Those of you who are familiar with Louise Hay. Yeah. And she ran Hay House for 30 years. So even though people have that psychological block that, oh my God, I'm in my 60s now and I really shouldn't be doing anything, I should be just looking after the grandkids or whatever, I go, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Oh, well, I've always wanted to do dada. Then go and do dada, whatever it is. People put themselves in their own mental restriction around age, and they shouldn't. As long as you're healthy, doesn't matter what age you are, you can still achieve whatever you want. And even if you are healthy and you just want to stop for 6 months, then just stop for 6 months, providing you've got the means to continue to look after your family so they don't suffer while you stop. And sometimes taking a time out is very important, especially with people who are healers, counselors, these kinds of people, because they're forever giving, and they do tend to neglect giving back to themselves.
I think aging and wisdom and all of that is just such a huge topic, and one that we could go into for a long time. I know for myself, just because we're coming up to 50, so my husband's 50 next year and I'm going to be 49 next year, so it's just kind of like, or the beginning of next year, what I've noticed about every time I criticize myself for I'm not where I wanted to be. If I have those recurring thoughts, like I'm not where I want to be, I haven't quite capitalized, what have I been doing for the last sort of 5 years, those kind of thoughts. I actually think, look, I've got so much more depth of awareness and understanding and knowledge and kind of this ability to see who I am, what I am, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's like going down, down, down. And what I feel like is if I can go down, 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 I can go up, up, up. And they're always, the stronger the roots, the stronger the branches. And so you talking about this time for me, and I know that Alexandra and Michelle, this is really relevant to you, and Rachel will be coming up a little bit behind, some of the other girls are a bit younger, but it's like we it's so exciting, because I think that it is if you keep holding the faith that we're not irrelevant and that we're not keeping up with, you know, what's being learned at a younger age, but can bring back and integrate and really share now and grow this wisdom. And I keep looking for, there are great examples of people who are doing wonderful, wonderful work in the, you know, I guess the second part of their life. So it's really promising learning about those returns. It's really interesting.
I always say that the first part of your life is about you having all the experiences you need to be the integrated authority for the second part of your life.
I love that. Yeah, that's really cool.
So, and even though the thing is, as humans, we have our own expectations of where we think we need to be. But if we
always, that's never going anywhere, is it?
If we accept as spiritual beings that we are exactly where we are meant to be, then it really does take the stress off. And, you know, and for those of you who know how to manifest, then you just manifest as you go. You know, and the world is not what it was 30 years ago.
For me, it's the lesson of just continuing to trust and surrender and just flow and know that it's coming, like know that we're taking the right aligned actions with the possibility, the aligned actions, and it will all work out. I think we're all pretty good at staying on track with that. Now, I'd just like to have a quick, we want to have some questions, but I just want to have a quick chat. I am interested, I've been learning recently a little bit about like the sun, moon, and rising. Just if you were to know 3 signs, because everybody, like most people, I would say, know what their main, like their sun sign is. That's their main sign. That's the one they look. Yeah, that's the one they look at in the daily horoscopes in the paper, or that they kind of go, oh, I'm a Taurus, so therefore I'm very grounded. Or like me, I'm an Aries.
Not at the moment. Sorry.
Not at the moment.
Uranus is going through the sign of Taurus, and Taurians who love the sense of comfort and love to know the plan and love to be grounded. They are just being uprooted. They are being scattered. They are being unfocused. They can't make a decision. It's like and
I'm just laughing because my
Taurus and
my spiritual daughter here, Stephanie, is a Taurus, and that's exactly what's happening. And also my literal daughter, my 8.5-year-old, is Taurus as well, and she's in very much in that flow. So
when you say so that the ideal,
traditionally grounded,
the ideal, but the planets come around and disturbs the energy. So, you know,
so fascinating. Are you Taurus as well? Michelle is Taurus. Yeah. Okay, great.
She's got quite a few planets in Taurus. So hence, while, do I do this or do I do that?
So that's why Christina said to me, you know, knowing your 3 signs, your sun, moon, and rising is, you know, it's
I can talk about that.
You need to read them in relationship to where all of the other planets and movements and transits are, which at any one time, which is what she's Christina's just referring to there. So but is it a good place for us if we don't have like a full natal chart, or just to look a little deeper into those 2, like the shadow aspect and the soul aspect of the moon and the ascendant, or is
let me move towards that.
Okay.
First thing is first. The astrology wheel is 12 houses, and they govern every area of life. Okay. There are 10 planets that we are governed by. 10 planets. So when most of us know our date of birth, so we know what sign we are. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But if you look at that one sign in relation to the whole chart where there are 10 planets, and I'm not even talking about planetoids, asteroids, or the other things, or fixed stars, or all the other things that I work with, but just talking at the 10 planets, then you are 10% of that chart if you just look at your sun. Okay. And everybody has 10 planets. So you cannot get away from the energies of all the planets. Now, every planet has positives and negatives. And I generally say we all work through our negatives or our dark side in order to understand the lessons around that, so we can actually then be a transceiver or a promoter of the positive aspects of the planet. So there you can incorporate that in yourself and others. Now your sun, moon, and ascendant. Now the sun, now it's interesting. In Indian astrology, the moon is more important. And in Western astrology, the sun is more important. I just wanted to make that differentiation. The sun is to do with our physical body. Yeah?
Yeah.
So what we are experiencing in the physical.
Right.
It rules the heart. It's kind of where you shine. It's like, it's like you can see everything over the horizon. It's very visual because it's very tactile. It's very physical. Yeah.
Yeah.
The moon, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. So if you're looking at the yin and the yang, the masculine is the sun and the feminine is the moon. And of course, with everything, we need the polar opposites to keep us all in balance. Yeah. So the moon rules our soul. So this is why in Vedic astrology, they look a lot at the soul because they're looking at the soul's work. But the soul, the moon also rules things like body fluids and mind and memory and a lot of other things, and past lives. I do a lot of past lives work with the moon. So the moon is sort of the soul. So my statement, I said earlier that in my opinion, we are spiritual or soulful beings, the moon, in a physical vessel to do the work that we are here to do. The sun is how that comes together. And I have come across, and I make no judgment. It's just what people need to do. And I just say, if that works for you, God bless you. And I leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in order to do your spiritual work, you need to have a strong physical vessel.
Right.
But in order for your physical vessel to be healthy, you need to have a strong, your spiritual or your soul or your spiritual practice needs to be strong. So when you say, go to the gym 7 times a day, that's pretty excessive, must be in Aries, 7 times a week, and not worry about your creative work or your artistic work or your soul work, then your body can become, what's the word I want? Overstimulated.
Right, yeah.
Likewise, if you meditate all day and not be in tune with what's happening in the real world, which is to do with your physical sun, then you're probably going to find yourself homeless because you haven't been able to pay your mortgage.
Not much happens yet. Okay.
So it's really important that the two have a routine of, and because they need each other. You cannot work separately. I talk about this in my first book, Learn to Self-Heal.
Okay,
now, the ascendant. The ascendant is the most crucial point in a chart. It's the time you are born. Because the moment you are born, or the moment you come out and take your first breath or whatever it is, you have cast the map for your life, this lifetime.
Yeah.
The map is the astrology chart. It's like your GPS system. You have free will around how you use the energies, and we don't actually start using our energies consciously until we become aware of what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the ascendant is sort of how people will actually see you. They don't actually see you through your sun sign unless you are a sun Taurus and Taurus ascending. Then they see you as very much a Taurian. Yes, Larissa?
Oh, Steph is a Taurus.
Taurus, yeah.
Are you Taurus
ascendant?
She's Taurus ascending as well.
Okay, so if you've got the same sun and ascendant, then they'll obviously will see you as your sun sign. But majority of people will have a sun sign and a different ascending.
Yeah, and do you feel like you grow into it? Because my ascending is Cancer, which is very motherly and nurturing and kind of homely. And I feel like I've grown into that. Like my Aries was more my sort of rush out there and get stuff done, a leadership style. And then as I've softened and come into what I would say is more of my soul practice and gotten to know more of me as a healer and just, worked on my words and my consciousness and connecting with source and being more aware of it, that I've actually embodied more of my ascending traits, I would say.
Some astrologers do believe that over time we actually move towards our ascendant and become more of our ascending rather than our sun sign.
Mm.
But the thing is, you're born with the traits.
Yeah.
And you can't exactly remove yourself from those traits. You can modify it, but you can't really, if you're born a Scorpio, you're born a Scorpio. So there's stuff that goes with that, whether you like it or not.
I know quite.
So you choose to accept your soul mission in this lifetime. And if you say no, well, I'm sorry, mate, it's a bit late because you've actually chose your chart before you were born. So hello, here you are. Now all you need to do now is do the steps and do the journey.
Very good. I've just been meeting a few people recently with Scorpio moon, which was very interesting. It was like 3 in a row. I was like, well, there you go.
Scorpio moons can be pretty, very, very private, pretty deep. You do not want to betray a Scorpio moon.
Just this meticulousness with which they go about structures. It's fascinating. I love it. Very cool. I feel like I stopped you mid-sentence.
Now, getting back to the sun, moon, and ascendant, just to finish that one off.
Yeah, sure.
Sun, moon, and ascendant, those are the 3 points in your chart that represent your personality.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Right. Okay.
So we are a combination of our sun sign, our moon sign, and our ascendant sign. So when you're reading the daily astrology, if you believe what you're reading, then you read your sun sign, your moon sign, and your ascendant sign.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe at different, like we just touched on, at different points in your life, one of those 3 is going to be a little bit more at the fore, the characteristics, the challenges of that sign. So you might be, depending on. Very cool. Hey, now, Christina, I just want to look at the time because 10:02. So
Okay.
Are you happy to go over a little bit over the hour?
Yeah, no, at the moment I'm good. We can go.
Yep. Should we
I've
go?
got a big sign on my office recording to go away.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, well, maybe we'll go like 15:15, something like that. And if you
that's fine.
Ladies feel like you need to jump off, but I feel like we've got a little more to cover. It's such an interesting conversation. I know that I have a third question. Let's see. I think we covered it because we sort of went into the Chiron and Saturn return as we were speaking. So those are my 2 main ones that I had thought were interesting at the minute. Of course, there's so many others. But I know that some of the women on the call had questions. So if you wanted to come off mute and ask those or pop them in the chat and Christina can have a look. She did say it's very hard to do a personal, to go too in depth in person because you've got to look at the whole chart. But if they're kind of general questions, that's great. And maybe they're a little, she could.
The chart is a story.
The chart is a story.
And if the planets are connected, then there is a story there. It's not just about looking at one house or one planet. I look at rulerships and if there's a connection, what kind of connection? And then is there a transit and triggering that connection, which will also give another energy output sort of thing, like, so it's when I look at a chart, I can look at up to 6 different charts when I am looking for information, and not just looking at the chart itself, but I can do transit, secondary, midpoints. It's like there's a whole gamut of things. Like anything, when you learn something new, you start with the basics and then you add to that and then you add to that, and as you learn something else, you can add that into the pot, and and this is how you kind of create your own little specialized area of what you do and who you are.
Sure. And then the other thing is, before we jump off, I will get you just to speak briefly about your offerings and what you have. Like, what's the best way to work with you, and what your key kind of like favorite offerings are that might be of interest to us as well. I know you've mentioned the whole year chart, which is pretty exciting. So around your birthday could be a good gift.
Yeah, the solar return is it's a snapshot of what energy. And of course, if you kind of know a couple of years in advance, you can sort of plan things, and you generally find your solar return lines up with your transits. You generally find it's a similar energy. So you kind of know that it kind of supports, the solar return chart. So you kind of know it's right.
Nice. So Rachel's put a question here. I'm interested in knowing a bit more about Lilith and North Node. Definitely keen to get my own chart too. So
the North Node. The North Node, they are the dragon points of the North and South Node. So the North Node is basically your mission, if you choose to accept, right? Mission Impossible fan. I'm sorry. I grew up with it when I was a kid, before the days of Tom Cruise, you know. Okay.
Yeah.
So your North Node is it's basically your soul's purpose and your soul's direction. A lot of people will bring their occupation into their expression of their North Node. Okay. Not everyone does, but a lot of people do. So when I am looking for career or vocation, I often look at what's your North Node doing, because you know, where is your North Node? What sign is it in? Because it gives me an energy around your soul's mission. And for a lot of people, as I said, it's connected to their work. Now the South Node, which is a direct opposition, same degree, opposite sign, is where you have come from. Now, it's also the gifts you bring into this life that you had in a previous life. And for a lot of people, they fall into their South Node energy because it's familiar. And so they feel quite safe in their South Node energy. Moving towards your North Node energy is really challenging because it's like you're doing something new.
Yep.
Okay. And it's, for example, I have a North Node, I have a South Node in Pisces and a North Node in Virgo.
Right.
Now, my North Node in Virgo is all about detail. It's basically about being of service. Now, how I choose to be of service is on me. But I have, you know, it's funny how most nurses have a strong Virgo in their chart somewhere, because Virgo is about service. But when you think about firemen or policemen, they could also have a North Node in Virgo, though it's got nothing to do with nursing. But the North Node in Virgo is also about medicine. So, you know, although you probably get a fireman with more like a North Node in Aries, like, you know, go in and not worry about it, just get in there and have the hero complex, I'm saved the day again sort of thing, you know. But anyway, so I did my service was the nursing I did for all those years, and now I'm still in service.
Yeah. But
I'm choosing to do it a different way.
Yeah.
So there's that. And of course, you know, there's other lessons connected to the North Node as well. So I generally look at, say your North Node is in Virgo and your South Node is in Pisces. So I look at the ruler of the North Node, which is Mercury, and I look at the ruler of the South Node, which is Neptune. And I like to see if there's a connection in the chart, because if it is, it means you can combine the two polarities of the energies quite easily. And funnily enough, I have Neptune conjunct Mercury in my first house. So I actually use my Neptune, which is my esoteric, my you know, connection to the divine, all those kinds of spiritual things. I actually use it in my practice with my service to others with health and psychological astrology and any other astrology that they happen to be looking at. So I still use it. Interesting enough. So sometimes the connections are there, and if they're not there, it's not a bad thing. It just means, you know, to focus on your North Node and to achieve it, it's probably might be a little bit tougher than if you can use those past life gifts.
Your soul's work to work towards your North Node. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And then a little about Lilith as well. So
okay, so I'm going to go off school here.
Okay.
Lilith was the first Eve. Lilith was the first Eve. Yes. Now I'll give you the story and the parable so you've got some idea around the energy and the power of Lilith. She was the first Eve in the Garden of Eden, and she was already quite a, as the story goes, she was an independent woman who basically didn't take any orders from Adam. So that wasn't acceptable. So she got cast out. And as she got cast out, she was very bitter. She became very angry. She became very vengeful. And I think from memory, she went down to Hades and teamed up with him. And they became a power couple. Like, you know, good old Scorpio, here we come in the dark ages. And then, of course, Eve was then generated. And Eve was like a very compliant, very complacent, anything for Adam. And that was like the the ideal you kind of all grew up with. Women stayed at home, men went to work. If you look over the years, the man will come home, you should put his slippers on. It's like that kind of paradigm, that kind of thing. Not good or bad, it's just the story and how this is manifested out. So Lilith, if she is very strong in your chart, then Lilith is really about two things that come to mind. The first thing is that, one, being a powerful person, man or woman, doesn't really matter, being a powerful person in what you do. But usually before they get to that power, there is usually issues around anger, bitterness, maybe even betrayal, because Lilith felt she was betrayed. Yeah. There may be those kind of issues that they have to go through first in order for them to get to that power within themselves.
Amazing.
And Lilith is an asteroid, so she's not a planet, she's an asteroid.
Yes.
And there's I don't play a lot with Lilith. I usually have enough to look at, but if it's significant in the chart, then I tend to go into it a little bit.
Yeah, good.
So it really is about a woman who owns her own power against the odds, and she's not afraid to be alone. Not saying that she won't be in relationships. I mean, she had children and all sorts of things, in the myth, but it's about a woman who she defines herself through herself and not by her external environment. I think that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, I really love Lilith. Some of the women on the call and from my collective will know that we've had quite an intimate and personal experience with her, where she really channeled through in an angelic Reiki training that I was taking, but it was a story for another time. But she really wants us to investigate her and as a goddess, to sit with her. And I've seen in a vision her really being resurrected to a very, very high place as an incredibly potent and powerful angel, right up there near with God, really coming back into her own massively divine feminine energy. But it is it's a story of transmutation and transformation, and we are still going through it, and there's this distortion, which we won't go into now, but it was kind of like the angry feminine. Anyway, we love Lilith, so we just send her lots of love, and we see her, and
I just want to add something about the divine feminine. Not too sure how many years ago it was now, but the fixed star Regulus has always been associated with Leo. Just think of Donald Trump. He's got Regulus in his chart, like on his ascendant, I think, on his Mars or ascendant. Anyway, and it's been associated, with Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun, so it's always been masculine. Now, this fixed star only moves roughly once every 70 odd years, approximately. Regulus moved into Virgo.
There we go.
Now Regulus is now at naught Virgo, and of course Virgo is about the divine feminine.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why you are getting women going to space, getting strong, powerful women coming out. Women owning their own. And of course, that's chills.
Yeah, I just got full body chills, exactly. Was that around the Lionsgate portal this year? Did it move? Is that when it moved?
No, it's moved a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
I think within the last 5 years, it's moved. I'm not too sure of the time frame.
Regulus.
Right. I mean,
interesting.
So it's moved into, so it's naught Virgo. Now, when planets move, but in this case it's a fixed star, it's moved to naught. When an energy is at naught, it's like it's initiating, but it hasn't really got the speed yet to do anything because it's naught. But you can still feel the global energy around powerful women in play.
Wonderful. Yep.
And also and so this what's this, what's 80 times 30 roughly? 3 8
can anyone do that in their mind? I can. 8
thank you. 240. So we're looking at 240 years into the future. With regulars going through the sign, the feminine sign of Virgo. So if guys choose to come back, you know, you can expect women everywhere doing their thing, like, you know. I'm not saying that men won't, but remember, this is about the divine feminine. So we normally associate with the female of the species, but with our new gender crossovers, as my nephew will tell me, Auntie, there are 40 different kinds of people, that not just men and women, there are 40 different kinds. So, you know, it's about the people, that the kids that are being born now and that are being coming up now, and if they choose it, they don't need to be designated a gender. And remember, we all have the divine feminine in all of us because it's through our moon. But this is not just about female power, it is about the feminine
power
in both men, in both the 40 different types of genders plus men and women. I'll throw that in there. So don't get too focused that it's just about women. But I feel it's about women, about the feminine power really coming to the fore and being more recognized and accepted and consulted and acknowledged and all those kinds of things.
The feminine way of doing things. I love it. It's perfect. Thank you. Alexandra has a question, which we'll answer briefly. So she says, I'm on the cusp of Virgo in Libra, with my birthday being on the 22nd of September. I'm an ascending in Libra. Should I focus more on the sun sign of Virgo or Libra?
Okay, now I often get this when they say, oh, I'm on the cusp. Okay, this is going to come down to your time of birth. Your sun will either be a Virgo sun or a Libra sun, because you cannot split a planet and put it in two signs. Number one. In saying that, thank you. So you are a Virgo sun. Now, in saying that, you have you've got Virgo in the 12th. Your sun is in the 12th house. Because you have a Libra ascendant, correct? Right, okay. So you have the Virgo, plus you will probably have things like Mercury or maybe even Venus in either Virgo or in Libra. So I would, you know, you're going to be reading Virgo in Libra anyway, Mercury in Libra, okay, because Libra is your ascendant and Virgo is your sun. So you will have the traits and the energies of both signs.
I think you do. Okay? I think both you're signs. Very Virgo Libra.
You can be a sun in Gemini, but if you've got 5 planets in Taurus, you know, which energy is going to shine through the most? Your 5 planets in Taurus, because it's stellium. It holds most of the chart. You may have a sun in Gemini, and you might you know, you might be very interested, and you still will have the intellectual stuff that goes on with a Gemini, but your 5 planets in Taurus are going to come through, and most people will probably mistake you for those 5 planets in Taurus rather than your sun sign.
That's why it's great to have a reading and to look at the whole picture, not just the, you know, there might be stuff going on.
Really helps you understand who you are. And Larissa, you have 2 planets in Sag and 2 planets in Aries. So that's Sag and Aries. So if you just bring it back to the elements, which is what we do in Ayurveda, that's fire. Like, whoa, 4 out of your 10 planets are in fire signs. That's almost 50% of your chart in fire signs. So here is go, go, go. Look out, get out of the way. Put my helmet on. I'm coming. You know, do not stand in my way. Give me as much space as you can, because I need it all. You know, you're not going to be sitting on the couch going, well, maybe if I go this way, it might save me a few dollars, or maybe if I go this way. No, you're the kind of person that we're going to call on when there is in a evacuation to be done. You know, you're a doer, you're a goer, you're out there to motivate, you're out there to inspire, you just charge right ahead. Aries doesn't know much about, Aries don't like, I'm not saying that they don't like to plan, but even if they had a plan, they wouldn't really stick to it. It's like, in they go, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just letting you know, if you have somebody that has a lot of fire in their chart, they're the people that are going to be taking the tree off your house when it falls down in the flood.
Yeah.
I'm
not sure what my other ones are, but I'm an Aries sun and Sagittarius moon, so I move a little like that as well.
Yeah, you've got that fire energy as well. So, you know, you like to get things done.
To show up and get it done. For sure. Well, it's such a great chat. Thank you, Christina. I really think we've learned a lot, and obviously, like, astrology is this wonderfully exciting, vast area of knowledge. And then, of course, Ayurveda we've hardly touched on, so we could just about I'd love to come back and have another call about that, because it's so interesting. And there's also something jumped into my awareness, which was about this Pluto retrograde and Pluto return into Aquarius, which is the
okay, me just,
I don't know, do you want to do that now? Or
I can do that. I knew
call.
someone was going to ask me about that.
Oh, did you?
Okay, Pluto. Okay, first thing, Pluto moves very slow, right? You've got your 12 charts, 12 houses, 360 degrees. It takes approximately, give or take a year, 248 years to go around your whole chart. So you will never have a Pluto return in your lifetime.
Okay. But the world is having one, or the world is having a Pluto retrograde?
Oh, the States is having a Pluto return as we speak. United States, okay? So, and of course, United States is a big state. Whatever happens in the state filters into Australia. What happens in Australia filters into New Zealand. So it's all connected that way.
The States, okay.
Now, Pluto moves at a roughly 20 years, roughly, in one sign. It will move 2, maybe 3 degrees a year, going backwards and forwards. Oh, I'm so jealous. You're going to India with your own. I've been to India about 12 times, and I tell you, I am so jealous that you're going. Love it. So what was I saying? Okay, when Pluto retrogrades, it will retrograde for roughly 5 months, and then it'll go direct. Okay, the big planets tend to retrograde for a lot longer. Now, we are at the ending of Pluto in Capricorn. So if you look at the last 20 odd years and what's happened with our economic system, our governments, our banking, what else? Capricorn, government institutions,
industry.
Yep. Big business, stock markets. This has all been governed by Pluto. Now, it will dip into Aquarius next year for a short time before it comes back into Capricorn. And when it comes back into Capricorn, when planets, especially the big ones, when they go from 29 degrees to 0 degrees of the next sign, you can kind of expect that some major upheaval at the 29 degree mark. I think we're currently sitting at 27.
Right.
So if you think COVID was bad, and I knew there was something that was going to happen before COVID, I talked about it with my group, that was going to affect the world economy. I didn't know it was going to be a virus, but it turned out the COVID affected the world economy. So just know that with Pluto moving into Aquarius, once it gets past that 0 degrees and it starts to pick up a bit of speed. So, you give it okay. So I'm just going to say this. In 2024, Pluto will be in Aquarius and starting to move, right? It'll get to 1 degree, 2 degrees. Uranus is moving into Gemini at the same time. First time in Gemini for 84 years. The last time it was there, autism was discovered.
Oh, wow.
Jupiter will also be moving into Gemini at the same time. So it's going to really expand what's happening with this Uranus transit. Neptune will be moving into Aries, out of the water sign of Pisces and into Aries. And that's like a really new beginning. It's because Aries is the first sign, and it's really the first time Neptune would have been there for 144 years. So these are big shifts that are all happening at the same time. So 2024 is going to be a big year. So I always say to people, put on your seatbelt and make sure that you and your family are okay, because if you and your family are okay economically, food-wise, water-wise, oh, and Saturn, of course, is going to be in Pisces, like, you know, so you can expect everything around the industry of film and water, you know, all to do with Pisces, and oil is going to be another one, so up go the prices, you know, it's all there.
So 2020, yeah, okay.
So there's a huge thing happening. But your question about Pluto in Aquarius, I feel, considering it hasn't been there for 248 years, okay, so we need to go way back in history to find out what's happening, what may happen. But we are all about stepping into the future. That's what Uranus and Taurus is all about. So I feel that healing, which is what I would say most of us are involved in some way. Yeah. Remember, Pluto is transformative. Pluto is about going deep, looking at your shadow, looking at that trauma and turning it into a powerful modality. Yeah?
Yeah.
I feel that therapies like, I just remembered something and I better write it down before I forget it, because Michelle will tell me off. I just need to write it down. Not degrees. Okay, got that. Okay, so frequency, energetic healing, astrology, because it's in Aquarius. So Aquarius is about doing it different. And if you look at Aquarius is to do with the electrical system. And as I said, we are spiritual electrical beings in a physical body. Our heart is an electrical pump. We're governed by the nervous system, which is an electrical system. So healings around music, tuning forks, all these other kinds of things are going to be quite relevant. Healing beds, which I've already seen a few videos on. Yep. They're going to be the mainstay for hospitals. Just think of Star Trek. Yeah. And all the stuff that they do there. That's where we're going, guys.
That's right.
And some of it's already here.
Yeah.
But you know, the government at B is all about control and power. So it will only, if you see something on TV that looks really futuristic, that just be known that it is already here and existent and it's already being used. Yeah.
Wow, so exciting.
So that's where that's going to go. Cool. We'll have our flying cars. We've already got the electric cars, hence the Aquarian thing. The flying cars are coming next.
Yep. Telepathy.
Skynet. Yeah, Skynet. And this is a special one for Michelle. Pleiades. It's 29 degrees of Taurus and has been for the last 84 odd years. It's moved into Gemini, 0 degrees of Gemini. When Uranus gets to 0 degrees of Gemini, it is going to hit the Pleiadian system. And of course, people are talking about this Pleiadian energy, etc., etc. It's very, very strong in Michelle's chart. And so that is going to be literally off the planet.
Woo, it's exciting.
So this is another concept. So, you know, when these fixed stars get activated by the big outer planets, there's big stuff going on. You kind of get the feel of it, you know, because you meet people that are talking about this or do art around this, or they channeled the system. And I must admit, I love Michelle's book. It was channeled through the Pleiadians, and I just love her book that she's got out there. And I'm still waiting for her cards.
Coming.
And I know it's a work in progress, but I'm still waiting. And it's just clear messages of the future, of where you're going to go and how it's going to be. And I'm not saying, I mean, we've all been in a pretty much a Saturnian time warp where what's tried and true is tested, and that's how we do it, because we know it works. But this is going to be a whole new concept. You know, medicine is already talking about things like stem cells, and in the old days you'd get the injection of stem cells at $5,000 a pop. And of course we know that stem cells don't necessarily, they're meant to be going around and healing our bodies, but as we get older we lose them. And so stem cells is going to be one of the mainstays in medical therapy coming up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, you know, and what, 50 years ago, that would have been, you know, it's not heard of, because, you know, new things are going to be coming out all, you know, and I just got a message now that things like laser healing, don't know if there is such a thing, but I just got laser healing coming through.
I think it's just this like explosion. I've heard it described as it's going to be an unprecedented, unkind of imaginable yet, although I think some of us do have a sense of it, but this explosion into the esoteric, so everything to do with energy, with electricity, with new concepts, with moving things very quickly, like all sorts of
connections, chakras, nadis, energy, homeopathy, all that kind of stuff that has been kind of boo-hooed.
Yeah, or hidden, or kind of like, but before that happens, there has to be a lot more disruption. So we just have to know that we are energetic practitioners, that we study it, we understand it, we believe in it, we know it's important, we can feel it in ourselves, and like we know when we are attuned and we are bringing through downloads or energy or whatever it is, or moving energy with our clients, that it's all great work, and it's all what's coming down the pipeline. So we're in the we're in the right place.
Yeah, I know when I do my healing now, when I connect in with the Arcturians, I'm watching them and they're using laser treatments. One of my clients had a collar put on, which was on her neck, which was like a laser collar. When you know, because I just tell the client what I see when they're coming in and working, and this client had this laser collar put on her neck, so, and it was beaming out stuff. Yeah, so that 100%, that technology is coming.
The technology is here.
Yeah.
Having access to it is the other thing. So that it's going to be more around the access to what is already here, in my opinion.
Cool. I just want to be mindful of our time. So let's just, Christina, speak briefly about your you had a course? Yes,
starting February 2nd. Yep. The promotion is going to go out on when Jupiter goes direct, which is a week about mid-November.
Yep.
I'm doing an 8-week course on you and your planet, so you get to understand the planetary dynamics in your chart. So you get to learn about the houses, and then you get to learn about the planets, and then you put that together in your chart. We don't do aspects like connections or anything advanced like that. I've got a different course for that. But if you just want to understand, you know, I've got Mars and Pisces. What does that mean? Like, you know, why is my energy levels low all the time? Mars and Pisces will do that. Like, you know, Mars, fire sign in a water element, it can't work. So you need, ideally, you want Mars, which is all about action, in a fire sign, because that's where it feels happy. If it's in other signs, it's hard to really activate that energy. And you've got some understanding around how your planets are working. Then you can also look at ways that you can actually support those planets. So that course is coming up soon.
Yep.
So as I said, that's going to be advertised, and it will be online. And when you get to do your assignment, which is basically lesson 8, you get to do the assignment on your chart. It gets sent to me, and then I will go through and you know, mark it and everything. And every week there is an assignment and a workbook, which you don't have to do, but if you do it, then I can see how you are learning with the group and with the class. So that's I call it my astrology course for people who don't want to be astrologers but want to understand about their charts.
Yeah, nice. And if people so you've got your like questions, if anyone's just got general questions about life that they're dealing with, like something they're dealing with at the minute, like I had around the location thing, so we can just get in contact with you.
What I'm going to offer for the people that are here for this group is, if you want to do a 30-minute online session with me for $50, where it's normally $65, then by all means email me either through Alice or through CR Scorpio, 1111@gmail.com.
I'll put all the info in our chat and in our page. And that's wonderful. Thank you, Christina.
And one more thing. Just one more
doing
thing.
that myself. Yes.
On Facebook, if you want to, and the other thing, if you want to use that session but use it as a gift voucher, you can buy it for $50 and gift it to a friend if you don't want to use it for yourself. And this is only for the people here, and because I know who's here. Okay.
Oh, shall I write you? Can I write you a list of who's in the collective? It's just there's 8, I think. 8
that's fine.
In total. Yeah.
And the other thing is on Facebook, I've got a private group where I rotate. It's Christina's AAA, and I rotate astrology, Ayurveda, and authorship. And at the moment, we're in authorship.
Yeah.
And next month we are doing astrology.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. Next month it'll be the month on astrology, and then at the moment we're doing the month on authorship. This is where I interview authors, do interviews. I do all sorts of things on the page, and you can be a part of that. But astrology month is usually pretty big because everybody wants to know something about astrology, and I usually have a couple of speakers on board. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, now what I do on Instagram is I don't do what everybody else does. I just do daily short posts on what's happening for the cosmic energy for the day.
Yep. Nice. Yep.
So if you've got Venus trine Saturn, I will say Venus trine Saturn, this is what it means. This is what I would recommend for this kind of energy for the day. I do things like void of course moons, because sometimes you've got a void of course moon which can last all day. A void of course moon is because the moon travels and it takes 2.5 days to go through one sign. So when it gets to the end of the sign, if it doesn't make a connection to the other planets in the sky at the time, that's called void of course. Now, generally during that time, it's a time where your energy might be a bit flat, and it's not a good time to have a business meeting or do that important phone call, because there's no energy to support the action. So we sometimes feel those days, don't we, without knowing kind of why. Like we definitely. I post those in the morning, so you generally have a few hours notice before it happens. So I just do one post a day. I'm not one of these people who does 3 or 4, 5 or 6 or 7 posts. I don't do that. It's just that one post a day. You know what the energy is for the day, and then you can decide on whether you're going to be doing, work with the energy or not. So the Instagram is astroplus.co.nz. Okay, and I can put all those details on our group and circulate them. I did have one other question about an offering, which was if you have never really had a natal chart, or maybe you've just got one online from, Astro Cafe or something like that, like a basic one, but you wanted to have somebody more like read your chart. Do you do that as an offering, and how much is that? Is it a longer session? Well, if I'm doing, say, a huge interpretation of your chart, then it's more than half an hour. That would probably be a 90-minute session, because I can go to many different levels, and plus you get what's happening at the moment, any significant transits, what you're going through. And I generally look to see if you've got any eclipses happening as well. So that can be, it just depends. A lot of people will say, look, can we just do the interpretation and I'll do another session at another date. So it just pay, maybe just the best way to go at the moment would be book in with the $50 half-hour session. And I know Rachel, who was on the call before, was quite keen to get a more in-depth reading, but you guys can negotiate that. And if you've got your correct birth details, we can talk about I can give you a bit of a mini interpretation. Nice. But I won't be able to get into some of the deeper stuff. Of course, and then if people want to continue working on with you, there's that option as well. So that's cool. Well, it's so great. I think we are very very, very appreciative of your knowledge. Thank you for the heart, Alexandra. You really know your stuff, Christina, and that's why I wanted to invite you on, because it was obvious to me how versed you are and intuitive you are, and how much you know about how all this works. And so clear. I really love your clarity as well. So thank you. And how it lands, it really feels good, doesn't it, in our bodies to
have someone who's who really knows their stuff. So
well, the thing is,
very much.
When you work your passion, you become an expert at what you do.
I wrote that down. I think it's a really, really pertinent point for this whole call, and it's so obvious. It's like you find your thing, study it, love it, throw yourself into it, and then just share your gift. I mean, share.
And then the energy just comes. You don't, have to.
Yeah.
You don't always. I mean, like in any business, you need to do the initial marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
But if you are good at what you do, then it comes, and you also get the clients that you need.
That's right.
Or that need you as a therapist.
I think the connections get burst, don't they? So
yeah.
Right, I'm going to let everybody say bye and get on with their day. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your week, and just thank you again, Christina, so much, and we will all be in touch. All right.
I appreciate that, Alice, and maybe at some point next year, I'm quite happy to come on and do something with Ayurveda, just a little mini talk on Ayurveda, and if you guys want a course on it, we can do that as well at some point down the line.
Yes, let's do that. That'll be amazing. In the new year. Okay, sounds great.
My next few months are busy.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll see you on Saturday.
Yes, I'll see you on Saturday when you come down to the fair.
Yeah, that'll be fun. All right.
Great. Take care.
Lots of love, everybody. Thanks for your time today.
Well, thank you for inviting me to this wonderful group.
Oh, you're so welcome. We'll have you again soon.
Blessings.
All right. Lots of love. Bye.